Well, well, well. If it isn't you, if it isn't whatever day I post this on, this is level 4 of the ultimate serial killers, mass killings, and true crime iceberg. So, buckle your fuckles. Be prepared for some degenerate shit. And more importantly, if you haven't seen the first 3 parts, I do recommend that you go ahead and watch them. If you like true crime, you'll like all of them, and it gives you more stuff to distract yourself with. Now, without further ado, let's just get into it. The Monster of Florence. On the 21st of August, 1968, in Florence, Italy, Antonio Lobianco, a mason worker, and Barbara Locci, a homemaker, are shot to death in Barbara's car with a .22 handgun. This is Insignia, to be exact, a small town to the west of Florence. Their son, well, Barbara's son, is in the back of the car, and he flees home. This kicks off the monster's killings. Overall, this monster kills around 14 people, always couples in a car, always double homicides, and in most cases, the female's sex organs are removed. So, who could be responsible for such a horrendous act? Well, we don't really know. We know for sure that the murders are connected, but we also know that Italian courts have convicted 4 different people for 4 of the different crimes. Authorities now believe that it was a group of murderers who became known as the Snacks Companions who were responsible for it. However, nothing concrete has ever been found, and besides the 4 cases that were solved, the rest of these cases, despite having very similar MOs, remain unsolved to this day. Now, very luckily, couples just looking to have disgusting car sex outside of Florence, the Monster of Florence's final crime was September of 1985. But this has to be one sick and twisted fuck or group of fucks. I mean, seriously, talk about getting no pussy to the level that you have to take it out of a woman's corpse. What the fuck? That is not funny. There's nothing funny about this. Jeff Davis 8. In the parish of Jefferson Davis, Louisiana, a fisherman is going fishing, getting away from his wife, or just simply doing fisherman shit, whatever that is that they do. He's on the river. And on this morning of May 20th, 2005, the fisherman fishes up something that isn't a fish. As a matter of fact, it's a human corpse, a corpse belonging to one Loretta Lewis, aged 28. She is the first of 8 found dead. Other victims were Ernestine Mary Daniels Patterson, both 30, Kristen Gary Lopez, 21, Whitney Dubois, 26, Laconia Muggy Brown, 23, Crystal Shea Benoizino, 24, and Brittany Gary, 17. The final body of Nicole Guillory, 26, was found off the Interstate 10 in 2009. Now, of course, over the span of these 4 years that bodies were being found, fished up in swamps and lakes and rivers in this parish, what do you think the federal government did? That's right. They went ahead and they got in a super elite team of local police officers together. Now, you'd think all of these women being, drudged up, there might be a serial killer around. But no. Albeit that is what the news ran with at first, that's not what the police run with. And instead they have multiple suspects on the case. And they also have a metric fuck ton of missing evidence, especially after witnesses say the police are the ones doing it. So, what do we have? 8 women who, by the way, have a history of drug abuse, prostitution, and living in poverty, suddenly go missing, and the cops are suddenly incriminated, and suddenly the cops lose all the evidence. Wow. Let's put 2 and 2 together. What does that equal? That equals cops are fucking scumbags. That's what that equals. Robinson family murders. Richard Robertson, his wife Shirley Robison, and their 4 children on June 25th, 1968, were simply vibing at their summer home in northern Michigan. That is when an unidentified person began a killing spree with 5 gunshots aimed at Richard Robinson, fired through a rear window from a .22 caliber semi-automatic rifle. The murderer then entered the cottage through an unlocked door and killed the remaining 5 people with shots to the head from a .25 caliber semi-automatic pistol. Susan and Richard Robison were also bludgeoned with a hammer found at the murder scene. Shirley Robinson's body was intentionally posed so that when the crime scene was discovered, it would lead police to think that the crime was part of a sexual attack. Bloody footprints on the floor led investigators to conclude that one person committed murders, and the bodies were not discovered for 27 days. Conditions at the murder scene resulted in advanced decomposition of the bodies. Now, of course, a 15-month investigation pursued from 1968 to 1969. Nice. And this, of course, found that Joseph R. Scolaro III, aged 30, was responsible. Now, you might be thinking, Jesus fucking Christ, why would you beat 2 kids to death with a hammer, shoot 2 kids with a fucking pistol, and murder their parents with a rifle? Well, here's the answer. You see, Mr. Robinson was a business owner, and this business owner had an employee, Mr. Scolaro III. Now, of course, Mr. Scolaro had been caught slacking in 128K twin-turbo double-refined triple diamond Ultra K HD, and by that I mean he was caught slacking in the sense that he was stealing from his boss and got finessed. Now, of course, his boss didn't have him arrested, he just said to get the fuck out of my house, which Mr. Scolaro did. Now, when you're caught stealing from someone, and they decide, you know what, I'm not gonna have you arrested like is my right, I'm just gonna let you go, what should you do? A. Take the L, be a better fucking human being, and move on. Or B. Brutally murder your boss's entire family. You guessed it right, the answer is B! If you're this bozo at least, because that's what we all know B is for. B is for bozo. Bible John. Bible John was a Scottish serial killer from Glasgow who had a thing for quoting the Bible and murdering young brunettes who attended to a specific dance hall, the Barrowland Ballroom, a dance hall and music venue in the city of Glasgow. The 3 victims were all, of course, found dead in a similar manner, found dead with similar features, which is what tipped the police off that, hey, we've got ourselves a serial killer. So then they started looking for Bible John and even authorized a state-sanctioned drawing of him, a first for, Scottish history. And you know what they found? They ain't find shit. They ain't find nothing. The original suspect was Jean Langford, being a tall, slim, and well-dressed young man with reddish or fair hair, neatly rounded at the back, 5'10", and gave his name as John. He was also a taxi driver, so it's entirely possible that he did in fact just fucking jaboink these chicks, but it is not entirely likely. There was also a serial rapist who was active at the time that was suspected, and even some dude from the Netherlands, but ultimately nothing came of it, and Bible John to this day remains an unsolved case and a missing persons. But if it's of any relief, no further murders have been attributed to Bible John. 2011 Waltham triple murder. This triple homicide, committed in Waltham, Massachusetts, was committed on the evening of September 11th, 2011. Brendan Mess, Eric Wiseman, and Raphael Tekin are all simply vibing in Mess's apartment. There are 3 men who are fucking yoked, bodybuilders and MMA instructors, of deep Jewish faith, and also of drug dealing, because when their bodies are found, with their throats slit so deep that they're damn near decapitated, there's also thousands of dollars worth of marijuana and money scattered all over their bodies at the scene. Now you're probably thinking it's some sort of gang crime, in which case you'd be wrong. The FBI, upon their investigation of this case, found Tamerlan Zarnev, and if you don't know that name, that is the Boston bomber. Of course, the FBI didn't find out that it was Mr. Zarnev until well after he had died. Crazy to think that if that investigation had been closed just a little bit sooner, the Boston bombings would have never happened. New Bedford Highway Killer. Between March 1988 and April 1989, an unidentified serial killer is operating alongside the New Bedford Highway. This unidentified killer claims 11 victims: Robin Rhodes, 28, Rochelle Clifford Doperiela, 28, Deborah Lynn McConnell, 25, Deborah Medeiros, 30, Christine Monteiro, 19, Marilyn Roberts, 34, Nancy Paiva, 36, Deborah DiMello, 35, Mary Rose Santos, 26, Sandra Botello, 24, and Dawn Mendez, 25. These 11 women are all poor women with a drug problem that have resorted to prostitution to paying the bills, one of the most dangerous jobs in America, it would seem. The main detective on the case, one John Dextradier, has a few different suspects that he identifies, but no one is ever solidified. Among these suspects are Anthony DeGrazia. In May of 1989, Mr. DeGrazia, a 26-year-old construction worker, goes to hire a sex worker as he normally does, but this time, it's a police officer. Because of the fact that he was caught with a prostitute, or in this case an undercover cop, he's listed as a suspect. Kenneth C. Ponte. Kenneth C. Ponte was a lawyer with a checkered history, well known for doing drugs and other things that would get most lawyers fired. On top of this, Mrs. Dopriela's mother stated that her daughter had once given her telephone number to Ponte in the event that she needed to be reached. This, knowing one of the victims, makes him a suspect as well, but by the time that he's named as a suspect, he's dead. The last main suspect is Daniel Tavares Jr. Mr. Tavares was in the prison for the murder of his mother. Daniel Thomas Tavares then proceeded to send threatening letters to female workers at the prison he was in, indirectly claiming responsibility for the New Bedford Highway killings. In 2015, he was convicted for the murder of Gail Botello, who went missing in 1988, so that does remove one of the victims from this list if it isn't him. But the fact that he knew where the body was and that he was unhinged enough to tell somebody that he knew where the body was makes him the most likely suspect. Whether or not he'll ever be tried for the other 10 murders is anyone's question, but I personally find it rather unlikely, and I don't think that the rest of these cases will be solved at all in the coming future. In Buenos Aires, at 9:50 in the morning, on the 18th of July, 1994, Ibrahim Hussein Brero is driving an unassuming van. 3 minutes later, this van, packed with half a ton of ammonium nitrate, is now within a local Jewish resources center, having completely exploded. This is the AMIA bombing. AMIA, of course, standing for Argentina Israelite Mutual Association. This terrorist attack killed 85 people and injured hundreds more. It's the largest attack in Argentina history, and it was fueled by anti-Semitism. You see, Argentina has the 6th highest population of Jewish people in the world. And of course, an Iranian terrorist who was part of an organization that was beefing with Israel at the time is the one who did it. It's not very hard to figure out why it happened. Where it gets deeper, though, is that the Argentinian investigation indicated several higher-up members of Iranian government having been involved in the terrorist attack. These members of the government, who are still alive to this day, remain fugitives of Interpol. However, no one's ever been arrested, no justice has been brought. Rest in peace to the victims of those bombings, and burn in hell to the scumbags who decided to do it. Brabant Murders. The Brabant Murders are a series of gang-related killings that took 22 lives and injured 28 people. These were, of course, committed by the Brabant Gang, a group of 3 men known simply as the Old Man, the Giant, and the Killer. Their modus operandi seemed to be simply taking low-risk amounts of money and extreme violence. From 1981 to 1985, these people would go on to shoot people and take money for no apparent reason, even going so far as to fucking murder a 9-year-old girl and her parents in cold blood. No reason behind it. Their targets tended to be supermarkets and other small businesses that were guaranteed to have some cash, and there aren't any possible suspects except for Patrick Hamers and Madani Bohush. Both of these people are deceased. They were both fit for who the Giant was, which was to say very tall, and one of them did have things related to the crime in his garage, well, crimes I should say, but it was never enough to solidify it because a specific type of shotgun has many reproductions out, and the shotgun found in Bohush's garage, while used in the crimes, similar model that is not the one used in the crimes. Both of these men also had tendencies to take low-paying crime, which meant that there was no way that they were responsible, as the Brabant Gang was known for taking at least $10,000 in cash whenever they robbed a joint. As for why people would do this, the police don't really know. The investigation is still active, but there is some speculation about why someone would just do this shit. One of them being maybe it was a special forces unit sent to Brabant to kill people under the guise of domestic terrorism and or crime violence. Another is that they just did it to do it. And those are the 2 main theories. We still don't know to this day, and at this point, if they haven't been caught, it's unlikely that they ever will be. Texarkana Moonlight Murders. February 22nd, 1946. At around 11:45 p.m., Jimmy Hollis, aged 25, and his girlfriend, Mary Jeanne LeRae, aged 19, are parked on a secluded road known as the Lover's Lane after having seen a movie together. The area was about 100 yards away from the last row of city homes, nice and quiet. 10 minutes after they parked at 11:55 p.m., a man wearing a white cloth mask, which resembled a pillowcase with the eye holes cut out, appeared at Hollis's driver's side door, shone a flashlight in the window, and told them to get out. Unsure if it was a prank, Hollis told him that he had the wrong person, to which man responded, "I don't want to kill you, fellow, so do what I say." Both Hollis and LeRae exited the vehicle out the driver's side door. The man ordered Hollis to take off his fucking pants, and then smacked him in the head twice with the butt of the pistol, fracturing Hollis's skull. He then proceeded to torment LeRae, telling her to run, only to run her down, and then sexually assault her with his gun. Eventually, LeRae managed to get away, where she took shelter at an empty house, and then called the police. The police showed up, and both of them survived. They were the lucky ones. March 24th, 1946. Richard L. Griffin, age 29, and his girlfriend of 6 weeks, Polly Ann Moore, age 17, were found dead in Griffin's 1941 Oldsmobile sedan on Sunday, March 24th, 1946, between 8:30 and 9 a.m. by a passing motorist. April 13th, 1946. On the evening of Saturday, April 13th, Betty Jo Booker, age 15, was playing her saxophone in her weekly gig with her band The Rhythmaries at the VFW Club on West 4th and Oak Street. At around 1:30 a.m. Sunday morning, April 14th, her friend Paul Martin, age 17, arrived to pick her up from the performance. This is the last time the pair are seen alive. May 3rd, 1946. Sometime before 9 p.m., Vigil Starks, age 37, a farmer and welder, was in his modest ranch-style home on a 500-acre farm off of Highway 67 East, almost 10 miles northwest of Texarkana. He turned on his favorite weekly radio show, and his wife Kathy, age 36, gave him a heating pad for his sore back. He sat in his armchair in the sitting room, which was just off the kitchen and the bedroom. While Katie was in her bedroom lying on the bed in her nightgown, she heard something from the backyard and asked Vigil to turn down the radio. Seconds later, Virgil was reading the May 3rd edition of the Texarkana Gazette when 2 shots are fired into the back of his head from a closed double window 3 feet away. Katie didn't hear the gunshots. Instead, she heard what sounded like the breaking of glass. She thought Virgil had dropped something and went to see what happened. And as she entered the living room, she saw Virgil stand up and then fall back down into his chair. Then she saw the blood and realized she was dead. She was shot twice as well, both times in the head. Miraculously, it didn't hit her brain, so she survived and managed to run, merely stating Virgil's dead after successfully making it to her sister-in-law's house. And this is the last crime in the Texarkana Moonlight murders. The Phantom Slayer, the killer responsible for this whole mess, is never caught. As a matter of fact, teenagers take to taking mommy and daddy's guns out with them and pretending to have sex on secluded roads so that they can catch his ass slacking and fucking shoot him. This almost gets a cop killed, but it's okay, because the teenagers are trying to sleuth it out. Which, props to them, massive testicles and mommy milkers required to do that move. That's ballsy. The Texas Rangers even came in, attempting to solve the case, but the Phantom Slayer took every step to make sure that he wasn't caught, even though he was ballsy as all hell with his crimes. So he obviously was never caught, and considering that these crimes happened a long time ago, we're talking the 1940s, not only is that the bozo probably dead by now, but he ain't ever getting found out. Honolulu Strangler. The Honolulu Strangler, also known as the Honolulu Rapist, was Hawaii's first known serial killer, and was responsible for the death of 5 women in Honolulu between 1985 and 1986. The 5 victims are Vicky Gale Purdy, Regina Sakamoto, Denise Hughes, Luis Medeiros, and lastly, Linda Pesky. Mrs. Pesky's case is particularly interesting, however, as the police received a tip as to where the body would be rather than simply finding a body. A man named Howard Gay told police a psychic told him a body could be located on Sand Island. The police searched the entire island and of course found Pesky's body, and she was nude with her hands tied behind her back. The Honolulu Police Department at this point had established a 27-person serial killer task force and had help from the FBI. The killer's profile was that of an opportunist who attacked women who were vulnerable, such as at bus stops and other public places where people can easily slip away. He was not one to stalk his victims. He also likely lived or worked in the area of the attacks, Waipahu or Sand Island. Police set up roadblocks at the time of the Pesky murder to question frequent commuters. Witnesses came forth saying that they had seen a light-colored van and a Caucasian man with Pesky's car. Following up on all of this, of course, after the discovery of Pesky's body, the police arrested Howard Gay as the primary suspect. Mr. Gay's ex-wife and girlfriend described him as a smooth talker. They also provided a very incriminating fetish clue: bondage, allowing him to tie them up and have sex while they were tied up. His girlfriend also related that on nights that they had fought, he would leave the house, and these were the same nights the murders had occurred. Of course, he got away. Nothing happened to Howard Gay. He was released even though a woman managed to identify him as having been with Linda Pesky. There wasn't enough to build a case. So even though it's pretty clear that Mr. Gay was the son of a bitch who killed these 5 women, he got away with it and died in 2003. Rest in piss, bozo. Myojo 56 building fire. The Myojo 56 building fire began at about 1 a.m. local time, September 1st, 2001, in the Myojo 56 building, located in the Kabukicho section of Shinjuku, Tokyo, Japan. The fire was the 5th deadliest in post-war Japanese history. It burned for 5 hours before being extinguished and resulted in the deaths of 44 people. It's suspected that the fire was a result of arson, but no suspect was ever arrested. The aftermath of this incident, of course, garnered a lot of media coverage, focused on the arrest and conviction of property owners for criminal negligence, as well as a few corporate executives of the company that was operating inside of it. However, worse still was the allegations of criminal ties. These were, of course, quickly swept under the rug when a very convenient thing for them happened, this convenient thing being 9/11. Marseille Bar Massacre. The Marseille Bar Massacre is a mass murder of 10 people in the Bar du Téléphone in Marseille, France, on the 3rd of October 1978. 3 armed gunmen entered the bar and shot everyone present in the head, with the sole survivor being the owner's wife, Nicole Leone, who was in another room. The massacre was largely taken up by French press at the time, and it's comparable to the St. Valentine's Day massacre in the United States, which is to say, one gang rolled up and fucking busted a cap in the other gang for undercutting their profits. The case was still ongoing when someone related to the crime was killed, and nobody has ever been convicted for the massacre since. Servant Girl Annihilator. The Servant Girl Annihilator, also known as the Austin Axe Murderer, is an unidentified American serial killer who operated in the city of Austin, Texas between 1884 and 1885. The nickname originated from writer O. Henry, primarily because this serial killer's targets all worked in the service industry. The 7 victims that the serial killer had were 5 black women, 1 white woman, and 1 black man, and they were all gruesomely chopped up with an axe, hence the nickname Axe Murderer. Now, however, who this axe murderer is going to forever remain unsolved. Detectives couldn't figure it out in that time. It's been over a century. We're never gonna know. Some people think that it might have been Jack the Ripper on a vocational or maybe spiritual trip to America where he kept up at his work. Other people think it might have been a man named Nathan Elgin. However, we'll never really know, will we? Well, that does it. Here we are, the end of the video. If you're new here and you made it this far, go ahead and just subscribe. Not only am I mildly entertaining, but it's also completely free and helps me reach my dreams. And if you ever hate my guts for some fucking reason, you can always undo it later. If you made it this far into the video as well, in general, just thank you. It means a lot that I get to make these videos and have an audience, and I genuinely do appreciate the experience a lot more than I express in my videos. Also, big shout out to my editor, Lynn Thari. Her stuff will be on screen right now because she's the one who edits these. If you like my channel, go ahead and give her some form of support on her channel as well, just because if there was no Linthari, there wouldn't be another pen. But that's enough of the lengthy and feelsy outro. Let me go ahead and start being a sarcastic asshole again. So, see you next time. Memento Mori.